I think it says we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Grad Chat from PhD Balance, where we talk about topics of grad school beyond academic research and that may be more difficult to talk about in our day-to-day. I'm your host, Fay Lin, and I'm a PhD candidate in biochemistry at UCLA. If you like what you see here, check out the PhD Balance YouTube channel for more grad chats, and don't forget to subscribe for notifications about when we go live. Our topic today is Black Mental Health Matters, and I'm excited to welcome our guest, Brianna Baker, co-founder of Black and Mental Health. Brianna is a first-year counseling psychology PhD student at Columbia University's Teachers College. Her research focuses on intersectional and strengths-based approaches to mental health and well-being for people of color at the policy and community level. In 2020, Brianna started a YouTube channel called Becoming Dr. Baker to provide educational videos about Black mental health, increasing representation in the academy, and mental health activism. So welcome, Brianna. How are you doing today?
Hi, Faye. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm doing well today. The sun is finally out after what seemed like a whole week straight of rain. So definitely feeling a lot better. How are you
Ooh,
doing?
I so feel the influence of weather. I think I'm in LA right now, and we were just talking before we went live, and I was saying moving from New York to LA, I think weather makes a big difference in mood, especially when we're going to be talking about mental health today, right? Environment makes a huge
Yep.
difference. All right. I am so excited. And, I mentioned in these beginning few sentences about your intro that you're one of the co founders of Black and Mental Health. So if you wanted to start and talk a little bit about what is Black and mental health and why is something like Black and mental health needed?
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It has been one of the surprises of 2020. I think going into the year, I was not, well, going into the year, I was really excited and then COVID hit and then I all morale for anything just went down. So Black and mental health kind of grew out of a bunch of Black and X movements on Twitter and on Instagram as well, where different disciplines and fields are looking to increase visibility and representation in their fields. So Black and Mental Health is an example of that. We're a collective of Black mental health researchers, clinicians, and practitioners and advocates, all who identify as Black and are working to elevate our communities. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. We had Black and Mental Health Week, which was in September. And now we are just still busy interacting with people on Twitter, sharing information, really increasing visibility of Black and mental health folks. And I think that for us, we kind of differ from other Black and X movements because we incorporate not just people who are in academia, but also people who may be Black and mental health advocates outside of academia. So teachers, coaches, performers, anyone who is Black and is working to infuse mental health and mental health practices in their daily roles. So that's a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And I'm curious. So you're one of the co-founders. How did Black and Mental Health start?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, because now it seems like it was forever ago, and this was over the summer at some point, probably around July-ish. Zori had, she's another one of the co-founders. She had tweeted something along the lines of a follow Friday or getting to know other Black people in the mental health space because there aren't a lot of us. And then on Twitter, it's just a really good place to connect and find that community. So she tweeted, it went sort of viral. People were just commenting and recommending folks. And then, a few of us kind of had the idea of creating this larger movement or this larger collective that could be a space where we all come together, not just on one tweet, but on an account and hashtags and things like that, so that we can connect further.
Very cool. I know I absolutely love Twitter and I can really attest to how amazing it is to connect with so many incredible, we can say, like-minded people, people with shared experiences, and just building communities over very important movements. And I think it's really through Twitter that things like Grad Chat has been able to come to fruition. And I get to talk with you today, and it's I don't know. I think it's just so incredible how amazing it is to connect with these people virtually, and amazing things can happen.
Yes.
Very cool. So I think for today's chat, I do want to focus a combination of, your work and also your journey as especially your experiences as a Black PhD student. And one of the questions we have here says, what challenges have you encountered as a Black PhD student?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because a lot of the challenges I feel like I've encountered as a Black PhD student, aren't just specific to being a PhD student. It's kind of like experiences of being a Black person, being a Black woman in academia in general, starting from, elementary school up until now at this point, having really similar issues. One being lack of representation. So I know where I go to school and in my department, there are no Black faculty. So, like, not having that kind of mentorship or having that Black representation in a leadership role has been a little bit difficult because it can be hard to advocate for things that I need, or things that would support me without having that, like that extra, I guess, like support from leadership. So that's something that has been a challenge. Learning to be an advocate for myself has been challenging. It's been taxing, I think, because you don't want to have to always be the one to address, the race issues or the issues that are affecting Black communities within your program or within your college. So when we didn't have a Martin Luther King Day, um, like announcement sent out to our department, I was like, oh, that hurts. Like, I thought that was a really a big deal. That's a big holiday, and there's radio silence. So what's going on here? Having to be the person to speak up for that. So small things, I think, that come with lack of representation that end up being or making a really big impact on me. Um, and then other things are just, I guess feeling lonely, not having people share my same identities. I'm really fortunate to go to a program that praises multiculturalism and social justice, but at the same time, there's kind of a missing piece with the Black experience. So that's been a challenge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this year especially has been so hard in so many ways. I mean, we've got COVID, but also so many difficult aspects of racial injustice that honestly is stuff that we've always needed to put at the forefront, but it took so many events to in this past year to right put it up
Yeah.
uh in 2020. And so we have social media for questions for Brianna, and I think these are all great. And one of them says, "How have you minded your own mental health during the past year with everything going on?"
Yeah, I think it's difficult, like to give like an honest answer. Like at times I really haven't. I think that this past year has been really transitional for me, just in starting a PhD program and then moving back in with my parents. And I'm actually in North Carolina, so I did not move to New York City like I thought I would. So dealing with kind of loss, dealing with loss of people from the pandemic has been tough. And then of course, all the racial injustice and having that thrown in your face, violence against Black people has been extremely difficult. And I think for my mental health, I've had to unplug a lot. So social media was a place that I like to go. It still is that I like to go to share my thoughts, to read opinions of others, but it got really overwhelming, especially when violence started being shared so frequently. Every time you turn on the TV, it's something happening against the Black community. It felt like, And if it wasn't that, it's COVID. And if it wasn't that, it was Trump. It was so much going on. So unplugging was what I had to do, which was difficult for me because social media used to be that place that I went to that was a joy-filled experience. And all of a sudden it became something that was really hard. So doing that, setting boundaries for myself, because I think that my entire life right now happens on my computer. I realized I was starting to get really anxious when I opened up my computer screen, because it's like I was opening up the world. It was assignments, it was work at my job, it is social media, it's emails from people, YouTube, everything. And I was like, oh, I just have to shut it off. I just have to have these boundaries for myself like I would in the real world when things are normal. So those are a few ways that I have tried to mind my mental health, and also just surrounding myself with people who I know love and care for me and will affirm and validate me as well has been super encouraging.
Yeah, it's been, I know like with everything going on this past year, everyone has been dealing with such diverse struggles, and it's so valuable to hear everyone share their stories about how they're, whether it be it's, you know, dealing with the racial injustice, and depending on your own identity, how that influences you. And it's really valuable to hear these stories and really normalize that these are tough times, and especially putting conversations of race and inequity at the forefront, and how that ties in with mental health. And
Yes.
yeah, and some of these other questions we have here ask about microaggressions. And this one says, what kinds of microaggressions have you experienced during grad or undergrad, if any, or if any stories you'd like to share?
I'm trying to think of what a specific story would be. I mean, one that I think was my first, once I knew what a microaggression was, because I think, people who have any historically marginalized identities experience microaggressions their entire life. And until you gain the knowledge and insight of what that actually is, you just kind of take it and you're not able to recognize that, oh, like, wow, okay, like that's not okay. Um, so I think the first time that I really was like, wow, this is a microaggression was when I was an undergrad. A friend and I had both gotten admitted into the honors college at UNC-Chapel Hill, and we were walking into this like long line of people who you had to like, I think we had to swipe our ID cards or something to get in. I'm not really sure. Um, so my friend, who was white, goes and she swipes her card and they give her a little name tag and she walks in, and then I walk right in behind her and they're like, oh, we're sorry, this is a private event. And I'm like, yes, I know. Like I'm like also getting inducted. Like, what? Um, and it was really, really upsetting. I remember calling my parents afterwards and just being like, they weren't gonna let me into like this event that was supposed to be like such a happy moment. Um, because they perceived me to be someone who couldn't possibly be in the honors college. And yeah, that was really frustrating. That was when things definitely changed for me. That was my freshman year in college. So that and experiences like that have happened before. I think even now in my PhD program, in certain classes where we have group work, being silenced and my ideas not being regarded as good enough for the group on like group assignments and group work in certain classes. Or just feeling like my voice doesn't count until somebody else says the exact same thing that I did. That happens quite frequently. So those are probably, the best examples I have of microaggressions, but they happen all the time, too many to take count of.
Yeah, no, that is like, oh, that was so frustrating to hear that stuff like
Yeah.
that happens. And it is unfortunately something that is not uncommon. And in the beginning we talked about Twitter and how it is this great community for people to connect. And I think what has been incredible about this online community is really putting these stories that you've just shared, like, Rihanna, at the forefront, and that these things happen, and it's important for people to educate themselves about these microaggressions and other aspects of inequity that still persist in these
Yeah.
systems, because it's absolutely not okay, and people need to reflect and do some work on their own to acknowledge that this is absolutely not okay, and
Yeah.
listen to these stories because they absolutely still happen.
Mhm.
And with that, we have a related question that says, do you have any advice for a grad student who wants to call out microaggressions from faculty but is nervous about doing it?
That is a tough one. That is, I mean, I will acknowledge that is like so tough. And I think for me and for a lot of students, just in general, like me being a first year student, but just students in general being in this kind of like lower status on the hierarchy, not having enough clout to really voice our opinions or the things that hurt us and negatively affect us without the fear of repercussions or being reprimanded in some kind of way. So it's extremely tough to know, one, what to do in the situation when it happens. So if there's a microaggression, I think the question said specifically from a faculty member what to do in that moment, because I think the response is generally to be silent and to take it. Um, and I think that unfortunately, like that's what I've done in the past as well. I think that my best advice is, if you have a faculty member who you trust, going to them about the situation so that maybe you can leverage some of their status or like their relationship with this certain faculty member to kind of mend the situation or to address the situation as best as possible. That's what I have had to do in the past. And then sometimes I just hold my head up high and I just have to go on. Unfortunately, I think that you have to weigh your battles, and a lot of times speaking up about a microaggression, depending on the situation, can lead to worse circumstances. And it's, I don't know, you have to do it with tact, but it's a really, really difficult situation to be in. I'm sorry, I don't have the best answer for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. As someone who has worked in these mental health awareness spaces and had to think about similar ideas of how do you bring up these issues to people of power, and there's these themes of tact that you mentioned, and the fact that as a grad student, unfortunately, one of the issues in graduate education is this power dynamic, and that there needs to be some sort of strategy when, one, talking about a topic like, if it is mental health, the stigma associated with mental health, and two, how to speak about it in a position of a grad student that might not have as much influence or might be very prone to the effects of people higher up. There's just so many layers to think about. But I really liked what you said about, finding allies, finding people, if it's
Yes.
a trusted faculty member. I just want to echo that because I think that that is super valuable. And it's tough. It is absolutely tough with whatever struggle you're going through.
Yes, it is. It is. I've had instances where I've addressed the faculty member myself. Some that have gone bad and some that have gone really well. And I'm not sure what the difference was in those two. I feel like I approached it the same way. Some faculty members will be more open to hearing students out than others. So I think you really just have to assess the situation for what it is and who's involved.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Let's see. One of these additional questions we have here, I just want to shift gears a little and ask you a little bit about your research and what inspired you to do the research that you do, because you do focus on mental health, right?
Yeah.
And well-being for people of color at the policy and community level. So do you want to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about your research?
Sure. Yeah. I think, oh my goodness, what inspired me probably goes back um back to high school, but really back to middle school, I guess. Um so I'm from the South. I'm from a small town, a rural area, in an area that is homogeneously white for the most part, like smack dab in the middle of like the Bible Belt, like that kind of just like white conservative area, where notably someone like me didn't really fit in. I think that from a young age, probably like 4 or 5 years old, I was aware of my race, and I was aware of the fact that my race was regarded as lesser than those who were white or who had lighter skin. Um, and it's like I don't know how or I do know how we're socialized to like have these views at such a young age, but it's something that I carried with me throughout middle and high school and college. And it was in college where I learned about racial identity, and racial identity development. So how we come to terms with the fact that we are racial cultural beings navigating this world, and how our identity is shaped by our race and how others view our race. That I found the language, I guess, to explore a lot of the feelings that I was having in middle school and high school, feeling left out, even though I had friends, feeling ugly, even though people told me I was pretty for a Black girl, microaggression. So I think that those earlier experiences really shaped where my research ended up going. So I focused on racial identity, some work with health disparities, and then looking at the community and policy level, because I really do like the idea of not addressing people necessarily just one-on-one, but at these kind of larger group and systems level, so that the change that's affected can be larger. Um, but I'm still figuring things out. I'm still a first year, so we'll see where things go. But I do find I guess joy in just seeing people of color thrive, and seeing the liberation that happens when we learn and we become educated about these phenomena that impact us. Because I don't know, it took me until I was like 20, 21 years old to find the language and the capacity to speak about the things that had really brought me down into states of depression for so many years. So being able to provide others with that education or that counseling, so that they can achieve that same liberation, like I think that that is just like the best thing ever. It's definitely what energizes me.
Yeah, and it's super super cool, and I think it's really important to look at the intersection of how aspects of identity, if it's race or whatever it may be, how identity influences our experiences, our mental health, and I think as for example, as someone who in this chat I am, I'm not a Black person, and it's important for people of different identities to really educate themselves about different experiences and to take the time to listen and to do their part to recognize injustice and to work together to make a society better, because right now from the experiences that you've shared there are really evident issues that are in place, right? And I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's so easy to just tiptoe around the topic of race because it can be an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but it's important to really put these conversations at the forefront.
Yes, I agree. I think one of the best parts about my graduate school experience so far is being able to definitely learn about myself and be reflective, but also learn about others, like you were saying, because I have focused on Black mental health and Black well-being. That's very central to me. Like my family and those who I'm surrounded by like the most during this time, like in my household. But learning about other experiences as well has been incredibly eye-opening to see like the similarities and the differences as well. So I definitely echo that.
Yeah, yeah. And if we want to keep going with some of these questions that we got from social media, one of these says, how do you go about finding mentors when Black academics are so underrepresented in your area?
Yeah. So this is tough, and this is I think a struggle for a lot of people, because it's not only the fact that Black academics are underrepresented, it's the fact that because there are so few, they're often overloaded by a whole bunch of other tasks and initiatives that are thrown on them, responsibilities that they're given. So I remember, or I do sometimes feel like I'm burdening someone by like asking for their time or their mentorship or such and such, just knowing how much they have going on, especially during this time, during COVID and all the racial uprisings that were happening and that are still happening. Um, I think that one of the things that I've learned is that, yes, I definitely want Black mentorship. And I have found that through having the courage to reach out and send those cold emails or go to a networking event, joining certain organizations. So like Association of Black Psychologists is one that I'm like looking to join, or just other sections and divisions that have a focus on Black people. But also the fact that like mentorship can come in different forms and from different places. They don't necessarily have to be from someone who identifies exactly like you do. I know that like one of my mentors is in like chemistry. She's a Black woman, but you know, like she is not doing anything psychology related, but a lot of her experiences are very similar to mine, just being a Black woman in academia. I have another mentor who is a white male, but you know, he has been able to mentor me on, you know, like being from the South and like experiences there. And so I just find mentorship and likeness and sameness from different places that can all kind of like nurture me in different ways. So mentorship, I think, looks differently. It would be nice if there was just one person you could go to who has all your same identities and can just help guide you, but that's probably not going to happen. So it's okay to have more than one, and it's okay to have a reason for different mentors. So that is my best advice.
Yeah, no, I really like that piece of advice because I think oftentimes we or try to look for this perfect mentor who fits all the pieces that we're looking for as far as shared experiences, level of understanding. And like you mentioned, sometimes that's a bit hard to find, and there's a lot of value in connecting with diverse set of people with all kinds of experiences that can help in different aspects. So I think that that's really valuable. I think it took me some time. I'm a fifth year grad student now, and I think it's something that in the beginning of grad school, I definitely limited myself a bit when looking for mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think we are running out of time for this grad chat, but Brianna, if there is anything in addition that you want to bring up or that you want to leave our audience with today, any last remarks?
I'm excited and happy that I was able to join grad chat. It's been a lot of fun. Definitely have appreciated the support from PhD Balance. And I would love to connect with you all on Twitter. And well, I don't really use Instagram that much, but definitely on Twitter. So my handle is at the bottom of my name, I believe. So looking forward to connecting and so happy that I was able to join the chat.
Yeah, please check out all of Brianna's social media. I think it should also be in the YouTube description below, and her Twitter handle is under her Zoom name below. So please check it out. Check out her YouTube channel. Did you want to say a few words about your work on YouTube as well?
Oh yeah, sure. So my YouTube channel is Becoming Dr. Baker. I almost forgot the name of it. Woof. But yeah, I make videos on a lot of things related basically to my journey through graduate school and how it's looked a lot differently than I imagined. So it's not walking down like Fifth Avenue all the time. It is instead in my room in North Carolina. I make videos about mental health, Black mental wellness as well, and social justice. So definitely check it out if you want.
Ooh, awesome. This has been such a pleasure to talk to you. And I am so excited because this has been another episode of Grad Chat from PhD Balance. So if this is your first time tuning into Grad Chat, we go live every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you like what you saw here, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get notifications about when we go live. So until then, we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.